Hello, Dark Reader, and welcome to the Dark Side of the Library podcast. I'm your host, Katie, and with me is my co-host, Carrie.
Hello.
Today, we are going to be talking about some brand new releases coming out in February of 2023, and there are a lot, so this is part one of of two parts. I'm very excited. There's a lot of really interesting books coming out. Carrie, why don't you kick us off today?
We never complain when there's lots of books, but we do feel sad for some of you that are trapped in your car with us, or you're on the bus or the subway and you're just trying to hear about some books, and then we rattle on and on. So we broke it into a two-parter.
Yeah.
My first book today is Ancient Images by the legendary Ramsey Campbell. It is about a lost horror film starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. The filming is perhaps haunted. The character Sandy Allen wants to prove that the film exists.
Interesting.
The film, which might have been haunted, contains a secret about Redfield, which is a family that owns a favorite British food. And they have this giant estate that has uncanny guardians, and one follows Sandy home. And there's a sacrifice that's demanded. Whoa!
Oh, no.
A lot going on. That's Ramsey Campbell, Ancient Images. I'm very intrigued because I love everything Bela Lugosi, and the idea of a lost, haunted film is very intriguing. That comes out February 21st.
My first book of today is called The Angel Maker. It is by Alex North, and this comes out February 28th. We have a main character named Katie Shaw, and she lived a pretty great life in the beginning. She had a great family, a great home, she did well in high school, and then something happens when she's a teenager. A violent intruder comes in and kind of ruins the whole thing, including terrorizing her brother, who she felt like...
How rude.
I know! Don't they know that ruins people's lives? So Katie felt responsible for her brother, and in particular, this traumatized her brother. I'm assuming the intruder probably was focused more on her brother. So now her brother, Chris, goes missing. As she's an adult, she has a kid, and she feels even more inclined to go protect him, go find him, etc. And simultaneously, there's another story going on about Detective Lawrence Page. So Detective Lawrence Page has been trying to figure out this serial killer who the legend says he should be able to see into the future, which is wild. But he's associated with also this other creepy, violent intruder that might have kidnapped her brother, Katie Shaw's brother. It's a lot.
So how would you catch? It would be so hard to catch a serial killer that can see into the future and see you catching them, and so they just make a different choice and hide somewhere else. Wow.
Right. So I don't know how this story is going to go and what kind of crazy mental gymnastics you're going to have to do for it. But if you are interested, it has clearly supernatural elements. It's a mystery. It's a crime thriller. It is The Angel Maker, and it's by Alex North.
My next book is a sci-fi book called Conspirator. It's by Veronica Roth, comes out February 23. It's a retelling of the Greek classic Antigone.
Ooh.
And the publisher's blurb is, outside the last city on Earth, the planet is a wasteland. Yeah, we're almost there already. Okay.
Yay.
Without the archive where the genes of the dead are stored, humanity will end. Well, that might not be the worst thing. No, I'm sorry. So Antigone is staying with her uncle Creon after her parents die, and she's in a gilded cage, and she wants to break the cage. That's all we can tell you. Woo!
I love that it's a retelling of Antigone, and also it seems like she's more active and doesn't kill herself.
That would be great.
Herself in the
Thank you for the spoiler that actually encourages us to read the book, because it won't be an entire book about her killing herself.
Right.
That is Conspirator by Veronica Roth, coming out February 23. And then I have another book, since I don't like letting Katie talk next. No, I'm just kidding. It is called Black Candle Women. It's by Diane Marie Brown. Comes out February 28th, last day of the month. It stars Black women, a family curse, and a very complicated year of heartache. There's a decades-old family curse that any person they fall in love with dies, just kind of reminding me of Practical Magic.
Yeah.
And it is set in New Orleans, which means I'm there. I'm totally into this. I am going to check it out. That's Black Candle Women by Diane Marie Brown, and I'm finally going to let Katie talk.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm excited for both of those books. They both sound really interesting. My next book is called Black Dove, and it's by Colin McAdam. It comes out February 7th. This one's interesting, and I'm seeing a theme this month where it's actually a son and a father who are basically dealing with or grieving over their, like, the mom or the wife passing, and the wife or the mom is haunting them. I'm noticing that's a theme this month.
Oh.
So, in this book, it's interesting. We have 12-year-old Oliver. His alcoholic mother passes, and they feel like she's still kind of haunting them. So he escapes through this story called The Black Dove. Oliver's kind of a weird kid, and it's fine. So he is being bullied a lot, and there's a scene where a kid is trying to catch him and chases him around, and Oliver takes refuge at this really strange junk shop. And this is weird. I have to look at the publisher notes because it's interesting. So the junk shop has a lot of this weird genetic mutated stuff in there, like a snake in the shape of a boy. There's carnivorous plants and other weird creatures in this basement of this junk shop.
I never thought it could be more weird than Stephen King's Needful Things junk shop.
Yeah.
They have now surpassed it.
Right. There's a lot of different things going on in this book. So, like, Oliver's trying to forget his mom. He's afraid of his own genes because of his mom's, the being an alcoholic, etc. And also he's being harassed by bullies. So he finds refuge in this junk shop with the owner, and they hang out together a lot. At the same time, Oliver meets this girl in his neighborhood, and this is where things get a little strange. A lot of dark stuff happens in this neighborhood, like murder and
maybe it's time to move away?
Exactly. So it's a strange story. It's got a lot of interesting themes in here. I'm just afraid there's a lot going on with genetic mutation and editing, grieving, weird supernatural forces, lots and lots of stuff happening. Apparently, it's a story that deals with grief and moving on. So if you're interested, this book is called The Black Dove. It's by Colin McAdam.
My next book I am so excited about that I pre-ordered it already.
Ooh.
It is Cold People by Tom Rob Smith. Comes out February 7. This is the perfect book to talk about today because it is really cold at my house. It's 14 degrees outside and my furnace can't keep up. It is 65 degrees in the house, so I'm putting on extra clothes and socks. And it's snowing at Katie's house.
Yeah, so exciting.
So Cold People is about an Antarctic colony of global apocalypse survivors. They had 30 days for humanity to get to Antarctica to save their asses. And the book is told in perspectives of the various survivors. And I love post-apocalyptic books. And most of them, the best part of the book is the apocalypse, but it's like the first 2 pages. And then the rest of the book is how they survive. But that's okay. I just hope there's lots of description of why everything got so messed up and why.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking very much forward to reading Cold People by Tom Rob Smith.
You're going to have to definitely tell us about that one because that one definitely piqued my interest as well. This next book is called The Crane Husband. It's by Kelly Barnhill and it comes out February 28th. So this is a retelling of the Japanese folktale, The Crane Wife. And I don't know why this creeps me out. So we have a family of 3, a 15-year-old girl, a mom who she makes tapestries, and they all live on this farm, and then a younger brother. The mom used to just kind of bring people home Nobody's stuck. And then finally, this is why it's creepy. I don't know. She brings home a creepy crane, like a real crane.
They poop in the house and they scream and stuff and they flap their feathers.
It's a 6-foot tall crane, a 6-foot tall bird. It's freaky. So it's a menacing bird, and now it's just lingering in the house, and it seems like mom has no care in the world that this bird is freaking out her daughter and her son. It's a strange book, but a lot of people have been looking forward to it. It is based on a Japanese folktale. I've never read the Japanese folktale, but it's not a creepy folktale. So I'm interested in The Crane Husband. 6-foot tall cranes. I hate this. This is by Kelly Barnhill. I will probably pick it up just because birds kind of scare me a little bit.
My next book is by Matt Ruff. It's The Destroyer of Worlds, a return to Lovecraft country. So if you haven't read his previous book, this will probably be very confusing. This one is set in summer 1957, and the main character, Atticus, and his father are going to North Carolina to kind of honor their ancestors' escape from slavery and retrace the route that he took into the Great Dismal Swamp, therefore Lovecraft country.
Yes.
But they're trying to reenact history, and it turns into a real life and death pursuit. Then we go back to Chicago, where George Barry, who you would remember from the first book if you'd read it, is fighting for his life because he has cancer, and he strikes a devil's bargain with the ghost of some dude named Hiram Winthrop, who promises a miracle cure. But to get the cure, George has to bring Winthrop back from the dead first.
Jeez.
And if that's not enough going on, we also go visit 15-year-old Horace Barry, who's reeling from the killing of a close friend. Now, we don't know if he's the one that killed the friend or if the friend just happened to be killed, the way that this blurb is written. He joins his mother, and I don't know how to pronounce her name, if it's Hippolyta or Hippolyta. I'm going to say Hippolyta. And her friend Letitia Dandridge. They really had fun with the names in this book. They are going on a research trip to Nevada in 1957 for the Safe Negro Travel Guide. But the mother has a secret and a far more dangerous agenda that will take her and Horace to the end of the universe and bring a threat home to their doorstep. Da, da, da.
Oh my God.
But then if that's not enough going on,
Oh my
we
God.
visit Letitia's sister Ruby, who's been leading a double life as her white alter ego, Hillary Hyde. But she needs a magic potion to transform herself, and it's nearly gone. And she gets a surprise visitor. And wow, I think that is too much confusing plot lines for me, so I'm personally out. But for those of you that read and enjoyed the first book, yay, there's another book coming out, Destroyer of Worlds, a return to Lovecraft country by Matt Ruff. I guess you had to be there.
That's a good point. Yes, perfect. That was great. Oh my God, that was a lot even for me. My next book is called The Devil's Advisor. This is by Brad Abdul, and it's supposed to come out February 7th, but I'm noticing there is a bit of a publishing issue. I've also seen that February 23rd is when it should be published, so it might be pushed, is what I'm trying to say. It's a supernatural comedy. Some people have said it's similar to like Good Omens. That's a really high bar, though. Good Omens is excellent. All right, so our characters are Lucy, who is the devil. Lucifer, Lucy, haha. Oh. And Lucy wants to retire. She's done being the devil. Or he, who knows? So Brian is the business advisor for Lucy. And Brian hates his job. He's done. He's like, I don't like it. So Lucy makes him an offer, work for her, and increase the productivity of hell by 50%. This is definitely, I mean, seriously, definitely.
When hell uses a spreadsheet.
Yes, and if he doesn't do this, then Brian is going to have to suffer a cruel fate, which is dubbed by his peers, which is even more hysterical because Brian hates his peers. So, to sweeten the deal, apparently Lucy offers Brian the chance to be her successor, which is cool at the same time. So, Brian has to face, obviously, Lucifer, the devil, God. Brian also has to face death, and Lucy has two twin children. So, Brian has to deal with a lot of people and things, big entities, in order to get this deal off. So, if you are interested in a fun supernatural comedy, this is called The Devil's Advisor. It's by Brad Abdul, and it might get pushed out, but it's supposed to be here in February.
My next book is It Ends at Midnight by Harriet Tyce. It comes out February 21st. It is a dark thriller. It is set on New Year's Eve in Edinburgh, and there's going to be a lavish party in a very wealthy neighborhood. Old friends are going to set the past to rights and move on. But someone at the party is going to die tonight. One of the guests doesn't want to have a resolution. They want to make revenge instead. It turns into a murder party with vengeance. Who wouldn't enjoy reading that? I might root for the bad guy. I don't know. That's It Ends at Midnight by Harriet Tyce, Tyce.
My next book, I think a lot of people are waiting for this one. It's called The Last Tale of the Flower Bride.
Yes.
This is by Roshani Chokshi. Comes out February 14th. Hooray, Valentine's Day. And it is about a married couple. So it's a very gothic story. And our main protagonist, it doesn't have a name, actually. It's the groom. He marries a mysterious woman named Indigo Maxwell Castaneda. And he's obsessed with mythology, etc. The only thing that she asks of him is, do not ever dig into my past.
Oh.
And to me, that's a red flag. I don't know.
Yeah, now I really want to look into your past.
So he's being really good. He's trying really hard, but they are invited to her home again. It's called the House of Dreams because her estranged aunt is dying. So he, at this time, being returned to this, mystical home, House of Dreams, he breaks his promise because the curiosity just gets to him. So he starts digging in to her past. They're living in this manor, crumbling manor, musty halls. There is a shadow of a girl who lurks in these halls, and he is lured by this shadow. And apparently this was Indigo's dearest childhood friend who disappeared suddenly. So the house is revealing secrets of his wife, and he has to choose between reality and fantasy, even if it might destroy their marriage or even their lives. So it's interesting. Very cool story. Very gothic.
Does it kind of have a Bluebeard's Egg kind of vibe to it, but with gender swapped?
Actually, you know what? Yes. Now that you say that, I think it might. Because even the cover is, it's even very blue, the cover.
Ooh,
it's
I gotta go look
and
now.
kind of spooky. Yeah, it's very cool. I recommend it. I will probably pick this one up. It is called The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. It's by Roshani Chokshi.
My next book is simply titled Marvelous. It's by Molly Greeley. It's a love story where there's a slave kid that turns into the king's attendant. Monsieur Sauvage is going to get married at the royal French court of Catherine de' Medici during the Renaissance. Whoa!
Wow.
Yes. Pedro is bullied by the children in his village because he has hair covering his body from head to toe. Definitely doesn't sound sexy, but I wouldn't bully him.
Aww. He's
kidnapped off the beach and he's delivered by a slave broker into the glamorous world of France's court. And unfortunately, he has to work for Monsieur Sauvage, but he teaches him French, literature, and sword fighting, and becomes an attendant to the French king Henri II, and he's a favorite of the queen, Catherine de' Medici. Ooh. She considers herself a collector of unusual people and finds Pedro fascinating, and she wants to find him a bride. Well, I'm not sure he asked for a bride, but okay. So the bride shows up, and her name is Catherine, and she's a beautiful 17-year-old girl whose merchant father has fallen on hard times, so of course he's going to barter his daughter for some favors to Queen Catherine, which sucks. Mm-hmm. The queen will pay his debts, and his daughter will have to marry Oh, Monsieur Sauvage is what they call him, excuse me. So they, of course, meet for the first time on their wedding day, and the poor bride is barely recovering from the shock of her father doing this to her. And she is christened Madame Sauvage by the royal courtiers, which is not fair. It's not her fault that her husband's hairy. Anyway, it is a little bit of a dark romance. It's called Marvelous by Molly Greeley. I think I'm going to pick that up. I'm curious.
I am too. That one sounds interesting. The next book that I have already pre-ordered is Murder Your Employer, The McMasters Guide to Homicide. It's by Rupert Holmes. It comes out February 21st. And no, it's not because I am trying to murder my employer.
I am so glad to hear that.
No. Actually, it's interesting that they call it this because it's actually more of the story is about a school that is called the McMasters Conservatory, and it's dedicated to the homicidal arts just generally. So I don't know.
Murder school?
Cool. Yeah, so
I only got to go to murder camp. I didn't know there was an upgrade.
Oh my goodness. At least you got murder camp. I didn't get that. Ugh. Anyway, so they call the campus of this, it's called Poison Ivy League College. It's hilarious. So one thing I do think is interesting to get into this school, one of the questions that they ask, and you have to answer this question correctly, well, not correctly, but give them a decent enough answer to get into this homicidal school. It says you have to have an ethical reason for erasing somebody who deeply deserves a fate no worse nor better than death, which is an interesting question. So now we get to... I don't see a protagonist name whatsoever. This is mostly about the school. You will get an education you'll never forget. It's funny. There's some twists. There's a lot of intrigue. And you get to learn about the school of homicide. Hooray! So this book is called Murder Your Employer, The McMasters Guide to Homicide. It is by Rupert Holmes.
Let's follow up that cheery read with a book from Alyssa Weiss that is on every Bookstagrammer and Book Talks list. It's Nocturne. It comes out February 21st. There is a ballerina on the cover reaching for a white dove. She's on point. It's a gorgeous cover. She has little red roses on her dress. And it's set in 1930s Chicago, where a talented ballerina named Grace is torn between her dreams and her desires because she's pursued by a secretive patron who may be more than he seems. Is this a Phantom of the Opera retelling? I'm not sure. So she grew up in Little Sicily in Chicago after the Great War. She's always wanted to be a ballerina, and she's orphaned, and she chooses the ballet as her home. Luckily, she has the skills to do so. And years later, during the Great Depression, she is the new prima ballerina, and she attracts the attention of the enigmatic Master La Rosa as her personal patron. But she realizes the world is not as small or constricted as she'd come to fear, so maybe the mysterious patron is beneficial. But she begins to unlock his secrets and discovers there's beauty in darkness as well as light. Score! I'm going to grab this.
Cool.
That's Nocturne, a novel by Alyssa Weiss.
All right. My final book of today is called On the Savage Side. This is by Tiffany McDaniel, and it comes out February 14th. So we have two protagonists here. We have twins that were born 1 minute apart. We have Arcade and Daffodil. And I personally kind of hate their names. I hate that I'm saying this, but Arcade and Daffodil is just not up my alley for names for children.
Yeah, that's kind of silly.
It is. I'm sorry. And I love arcades, don't get me wrong. So we have generational ghosts that haunt their family, and they're growing up in rural Ohio together, and they cling on to each other because they're twins, and they have this unbreakable bond. Arcade, though, she's kind of wrestling with her early life, and this is because something happens where a rural woman discovers a person in a river, and then more and more bodies are found, and this is starting to unravel bits about Arcade and their past. So she starts to have this experience and starts to freak out and feels this need to protect her sister Daffodil. they are somehow related together. These bodies that are appearing now in Ohio in this river, and Arcade and Daffodil together. So this is actually kind of drawing from a real story about a woman who was killed in Ohio. The city's called Chillicothe. I don't know if I said that correctly, but basically Tiffany McDaniel is trying to write a literary testament and fearless elegy for missing women everywhere.
Aww.
So I actually like this a lot. I will probably pick this one up. So if you are also interested, it's called On the Savage Side. It's by Tiffany McDaniel.
My final book today is called Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. It has a demon or devil's hand on the front cover, curling up with these amazing day-glow yellow nails. Woo! It's pretty stunning. Comes out February 7. It has been translated from the original. So a young father and son set out on a road trip after the wife and mother died. So they're grieving, and they want to go visit her ancestral home. But when they get there, it's terrifying. There's a family called the Order that's committing unspeakable acts because they're in search of immortality. For Gaspar, the son, this maniacal cult is his destiny. And he and his father are like, oh, hell no, and they get out of there. And they're trying to outrun a powerful clan that's going to do anything to ensure its survival. And I'm pretty sure they want Gaspar because he's probably like their blood heir or something. I don't know. It moves back and forth in time from London in the swinging 1960s to the brutal years during Argentina's military dictatorship. I don't usually do well with books that travel back and forth in time. I just can't handle. I'm like, what's happening? When are we talking about? So I probably won't risk this one, but I wanted to mention it because it is a ghost story, a story of the occult and the supernatural, and also it's about father and son love. That's Our Share of Night, a novel by Mariana Enriquez, and it comes out February 7. Now, those of you that are curious to check out some of the books we talked about today can find affiliate links to Amazon in our show notes and on our Instagram from time to time. Be sure to stop by at Dark Side of the Library on your favorite platform, except for TikTok. We're too busy. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We are signing out, and be sure to look for the second part of this episode where we talk about even more dark books coming out in February 2023.